Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Amazon best-selling author Danny Bader.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, everybody, great to be here. I am happy. I know that somebody just told me that because you're coming to listen to me speak, I rescued them from driver's ed. Who might that be? Yes, so yeah, hopefully I'm a good replacement for driver's ed for you. How's the back to school thing going for you? Yeah, not so much. So there was once a little kid who went to first grade. Do you remember when you went to first grade? No, most of you do, some of you don't. You blacked it out. But interesting how fast it went from first grade until now. How many seniors in here? All right, how many juniors? Yep, sophomore. Any first year? No first year? All right, great. So absolutely delighted to be here. Little kid goes to first grade, and he comes home and he gets off the bus, and his mom is at the bus stop. She's very excited for him. And he gets off and he has that big backpack with like 2 pieces of paper in it. Do you remember those days? You came home from school and you only had like 2 or 3 pieces of paper. And his mom said to him, she's very excited, and she said, tell me, what did you learn? And he has kind of a sad face, and he said, well, I guess I didn't learn enough because they're making me go back tomorrow. I share that story with you real quick because in our time together, the whole theme here is going to be your growth. How many of you are committed to growth in your life? Great. And what does growth mean to you? Success.
Development and progression.
Progression. Experience. Wonderful.
Learning from your past mistakes.
Learning from past mistakes. Great. Anything else up here?
Height.
What is it?
Height.
Height. Oh, growing in height. Good. I like that too. So yeah, we grow physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and all those things. Now here's the thing that I've come to understand at my age. We grow typically out of 2 forces. One is curiosity, the pull, right, for us to be curious and continue to grow. And then the other one is tragedy. I believe tragedy is a force that pushes us to grow or be defeated by tragedy in life. Any of you had any tragedies? Yep, we're likely going to have some more as well, right? So here's what I want you to do. Most people, teachers or whatever, are probably telling you all day long to put your phone away. Is that the case? All right, I want you to take it out. Take your phone out. They're like, man, this guy's all right. We're going to clap again. Take your phone out. Go to your search engine, Google or wherever you go to search. All right, go to search. Here's what I want you to search in there. Type in there. And if you don't have a phone, just with the person next to you. Days Alive Calculator. Days Alive Calculator.
It's the second thing as soon as I put alive.
Yep. Yeah, it usually comes up. And there's probably one called Rod Martin. There's a couple different ones out there. What I want you to do is click on one of them, and then it's going to ask you for your birth date. And you put your birth date in, and you hit calculate or submit, and it will show you how many days you've been alive. So how many of you right now, take a guess, how many days do you think you've been alive?
Oh, no.
When was the last time you thought about that? All right. Anybody get a number? Anybody get a... How many numbers? What is it? 6,534.
5,696.
5,696.
5,879.
5,879. Mr. Bolden, what do you got?
15,936.
15,900. Whoa! What do you got? DJ?
5,825 days.
5,825 days. Does anybody want to take a guess what mine are? 30. Thank you. Not quite yet.
40.
54. 40? 40,000. 21,483. So at 40, I'll be 118 years old then. But here's what I want you to do to think about those days that you've been alive. And they're certainly a gift, right? Here's what I want you to think about and walk out of here with. The days alive have been a gift. And what you have left, in all likelihood, a lot of days, I call them the question marks, which is simply the rest of your life. And I challenge you right now, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to create for yourself? Now see, that 21,000 days for me I've been alive, minus about 8 to 10 minutes. Because any of you kind of ever been near an electric outlet and you get a little shock? Me and my buddy, a friend of mine, lowered a metal ladder into a high tension electric line that had about 8 to 10,000 volts of electricity in it. And that electricity went in my hands and all the way out my feet, my socks, and my boots. And it killed me and my friend. I was dead for about 8 or 10 minutes. And then I came back to life, he didn't. So tragedy, right? That growth. So I learned some things out of that journey that I just want to share with you for about 15 or 20 minutes. I wrote the story of that in Back to Life. So that's the first book. I got a couple books here Mr. Bolden can give out. I wrote another book called I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite, about a running back in the NFL who gets concussions and gets knocked out. And I wrote the fourth one, I wrote another one, Abraham's Diner, taking the SH asterisk T out of the show. You ever heard that term? Blank show? Right? And we all know what it means. It's a time of what? Uncertainty and struggle and fear and regret. Those things we go through in life. And when we go through them, removing the SH asterisk T is not eliminating the brutal facts and the struggles that we have. Because we're all going to have them. It's how do you move through them? And I just want to offer you 5 principles that I have come to learn, practice. I didn't invent them. I think they've been around forever. And I call them Jackrabbit. JCKRBBT. I took the vowels out because it looks better on a t-shirt, don't you think, my man? Yeah, we're going to get you a t-shirt. Greg, we're going to have to get, what's your name? Lewis. We're going to get Lewis a t-shirt afterwards. There's 5 principles. Develop vision, be still, seek support, know thyself, and evolve. So here's what happens. I have that accident. I'm almost 29 years of age, and I'm going into this dark place. I'm drinking, I'm doing drugs for all the wrong reasons. Right? Never right reason to do drugs. Perhaps drink in moderation, but for all the wrong reasons. So the accident happened in July, and in October, I go down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I drive down there. I have 6 brothers. I have a sister, my mom and dad. They're all there trying to help me get through this difficult time because my buddy died, and then I came back. So I had a lot of that guilt and regret, and I should have done things differently. So I go down there to the Outer Banks on the brink of self-destruction. Lowest place, darkest place a human being can get. And I went out one day and I got pretty drunk because that was my mode of dealing with things. That doesn't solve anything. Problem's still there next morning, right? And we've got hangover or whatever. So I come out of this bar and I'm walking back to my motel and I see a phone booth. How many of you have ever been in a phone booth? Yeah, I figured. Some of you are like, a phone booth? What is that, man? And I'm like, well, you go in there and you talk with people. And some of you are thinking, is that like FaceTime? And I'm like, no, it's not like FaceTime. Put money in. Venmo? No Venmo. Your world is very different with technology. So I go in and I call my mom, and she says to me, when are you coming home? We can't wait to see you. She had no idea of the destructive thoughts that I was holding. And I was crying a little bit, and I said, you know what, Mom? I said, I'll be home in a few days. I love you too. And I walked out of the phone booth, and that little voice in my head. Do any of you have little voices in your head that talk to you all about life and what's happening and what's going on? Yeah, pay attention to them. The little voice said to me, I wonder what it's going to be like when I get better. That's vision, right? Vision as a principle is the ability for all of you to imagine what needs to be real. And I would strongly encourage you to start practicing that now. And I'd wish somebody had offered this to me when I was 17 or 18. So vision for you could be right now, if I don't see you until this time next year and we're together, and I say, how's life since we were together? And you go, it's great. And I ask, why? What are you going to tell me? What's the story of your life for the next year that you want to be true? What are you going to do when you graduate? Right? Hold that vision, because that gives you a lot of inspiration, a lot of focus. There's a part of our mind called the open loop. Have you ever had something you need to do and you keep thinking about it, and then you finally do it and you feel better? Yeah, you mark it off your to-do list. That's because the science of our brain, we love completing things. So if you think about your vision, your year, as if it already happened before it does, you are more likely then to take the actions to make it happen. That make sense? Right? Athletes do it all the time. Tom Brady, anybody know Tom Brady? Quarterback? You know, in Super Bowl 51 years ago, they're trailing 28-3 in the third quarter. That's not a good score, 28-3. And he's sitting on the bench by himself. And afterwards, they said, what were you thinking about when you were on the bench by yourself? And he said, I was imagining what a wonderful comeback would look like. 28-3, brutal facts, right? See where he's putting his mind? So I encourage you all, start to develop some vision for yourself. Grab your phone, not right now, but grab your phone at some point and begin to write your story for the next year. For October, November, December, January, February, graduation, getting into trade school or getting a job or going to college or whatever you want to do. And then look at it once a week, read it, and write it as if it already happened. Very, very powerful concept. And then the second principle of Jackrabbit is called be still. Because there's a poet, Rumi. Where's my English folks? English, right? Rumi is a poet, very popular from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And he said, there's a voice that doesn't use words. There is a voice that doesn't use words. Have you ever been really quiet or really still and you kind of felt something inside of you stirring? And perhaps it helped you making a decision? That's a very powerful voice. My buddy Bill Bennett is an Australian filmmaker. And he wrote made a movie called Intuition. And he's got another one that he's making on fear. And here's how intuition showed up. He's in New Orleans years ago, and he is making a movie. He's driving to the airport to get back to Los Angeles, and he's approaching a green light early in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning. So he's approaching a green light, and he hears a voice says, slow down. And he says, what? So he accelerates because he wants to make it through the green light, and the voice says, slow down. And he hits the brakes and he pays attention to it, and just as he does, a tractor trailer rips through that intersection. That would have killed him instantly. So then he's intrigued and he said, I got to find out, what was that voice, where did it come from, and why did it save my life? That voice is available to you in stillness. Does anybody practice yoga, meditation, prayer, journaling? All right, great. Those of you that do, right, you know the power in that. If you don't, start to experiment with it. Life's just an experiment, right? We say, you know what, I got to grow, we got to grow. Let me go get some information that can support that growth, and let me go now experiment with it. So write your vision, see what it feels like. Start to look at it. Practice some time in stillness, because here's the thing. When you practice time in stillness and meditation and all of these things, what you'll come to understand is you are not your thoughts. You're the thinker of them. It's huge. You are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of them. So when you get that, now you can choose your thoughts. Because what happens is many of us default to negative thoughts and stress. Why? Because here's how we're designed. We as human beings are designed for survival, right? So if you're designed for survival, what are you looking for? Everything that could go wrong. So sometimes in life, when we're struggling with school and relationships and those kinds of things, our mind is going to start to look at everything that can go wrong. And if we continue to think about that, then the likelihood of us kind of moving in that direction is stronger. Does that make sense? Because your actions that you take come from your thinking, and your thinking comes from how your actions come from your feelings and your emotions come from what you're saying to yourself about it. So after the accident, here's what happened. What do you think I was saying to myself? It's my fault. I screwed up. His kids don't have a dad. I don't deserve to be happy in life. See what I'm saying? What emotion did that put me into? Defeated, victim mode. So what does a victim do? Feel sorry, abuse alcohol, abuse drugs, and all these other things. Until I said, this was a tragic accident. He loved me, I loved him. I owe it to him and myself to get back into the game of life. As soon as you start thinking that way, then you're going to have a little more energy to take the actions that move you back out of the tragedies. So we develop vision, be still. The next one is seek support. How many of you have people in your life that love you? Yeah, let them in, man. Let them in. Let your parents in. Your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents, whoever's around. I get it. You're in the years and you're entering years, where you're going to come at life differently than your parents and your grandparents and your teachers and your aunts and uncles, right? Yeah, but come to that place from a place in your heart. You know, I've got a couple T-shirts up here with slogans, which would be what you want to say to yourself. Lead with love. Lead with love. DLDSM, don't let dumb SHIT matter. Right? Isn't there a lot of stuff in the world that we get wrapped around? It's really not a big deal. IABWV, it all begins with vision. And IAGBO, it's all going to be okay. So if we can hold on to that belief and trust that it's all going to be okay because you have great people around. I mean, look at these teachers right here. I've only been here for a little while and I'm like, man, these teachers love these students. Flat out. And I can see that love reciprocated. So lead with love. I remember years ago, I was cutting the grass. I have 6 brothers and a sister. I was cutting the grass and I didn't want to cut the grass. And my mom's there. I wanted to go to my buddy's house. I was 15 years old. I was a little bit of disrespectful to my parents. You know, don't do that. And my mom said, she's looking outside. She said, cut the grass. 3 single syllable words. Cut the grass, she says to me. And I start up the lawnmower and all that noise is going on. And I look at her and I responded with 3 single syllable words that rhyme with cut the grass. It's kind of like Wordle here a little bit. And as soon as I did, man, I don't think her feet touched the ground. She was over on me. She said, how dare you disrespect me and say anything like that? And I learned my lesson. And then she told me those words. She said, wait till your father gets home. Those words, right? But that lesson that I learned, number 1, respect your parents. Respect everybody. If they're wacky or they're knuckleheads or whatever, just choose to love them from a distance. Don't come back at them. But here's the thing. When I was pushing that lawnmower, all that noise, I couldn't hear myself. You got it? That lawnmower is like life for many of us. We're running around busy and crazy and challenges and social media and everything else, and we can't hear ourselves. So that's the key to slow down and get some stillness. Now, the other side of seeking support is being support. I'm going to challenge you right now. There is probably somebody in your life right now that needs you more than you're showing up for them. Think about it. It's not because you're not a great person and you love them. It's just that we get busy. So when you start to practice these principles, you want to take a peek around. I remember years ago, our son Joey, we dropping him off to college in LA out there. My daughter and I are going to get the car. My wife's saying goodbye to him for like the 20th time. And we were coming out of a restaurant and there was a homeless person there digging through the trash can. And Joey had a half of a steak quesadilla left that he was taking. And he looks at me and I look at him and I'm looking at him and I can tell he wants to go give this dude the steak quesadilla. And I just smiled. I said, your call, man. So he goes up, hits the guy on the shoulder, kind of spooks him, gives him the steak quesadilla. The guy takes off down the street. About 4 minutes later, my daughter and I, and she was probably just starting high school, we got the car and we're coming around to pick up my wife, and we see this guy skipping across the street with a little bounce in his step. And my daughter's like, Dad, that's the guy Joey gave steak quesadilla to. He looks happy. I'm thinking to myself, is he happy because his belly's full now with that steak quesadilla? Probably a little bit. And is he happy because a random stranger showed him a little love and respect? So when you leave here, right, opportunity for you every day to show up with love. And what you give, you're going to get back. You're going to get it back. So keep that in your life, right? Seek support, be still, develop vision. 1 is know thyself. So you've probably all heard that famous quote by Socrates, the Greek philosopher, know yourself. Here's a couple ways to know yourself. What do you really value in your life? Good exercise, right? Teachers sometimes Google human values. There's a big list, and then all of you look at it and circle the 7 or 8 that you really value right now. And then score them and say which value is a little bit low for me. And then have another column that says, here's 2 actions I'm going to commit this week to doing more of that's going to raise me up in my values. Know yourself. When you design your life around your values, you're good to go. You're on purpose. And then knowing yourself also is that little voice in your head. Pay attention to it. Right? The one where I said after the accident, I screwed up, it's my fault. And don't beat yourself up. We're all going to make mistakes. They say to err is human, to recover is divine. How do we come back from those? How do we come back? And then the last principle of the 5 is to evolve. And to evolve is to undergo continuous and gradual change and growth. So there are the 5 principles. And people say, okay, vision, be still, know thyself, and seek support, be support. I get that. How do you evolve? How do you grow? And I said, just keep doing those 4. Every year, write yourself a new story. This is what a good year looks like for me right now. Then that's done. Here's another good year for me. Here's the people I need to keep in my life. Here's the people maybe I need to get out of my life a little bit. Some negative energy, because you're a product of who you're hanging out with. It's very, very key. So as you continue to grow, those days, right, 5,000, 6,000 days, I would also offer you this. Your heart and your brains and your lungs, they contribute to you going, right? You need them. My body goes. There's a 4th energy. You can call it spirit, soul, whatever you want. This has nothing to do with religion, where you go to church, where you don't go. When the electricity hit my body, I had an absolute calm and a peace. I knew I was dead. I knew I was dying. It was the hardest thing to write about in the book because it was an experience not of this world. So I see the other brothers. There's 2 brothers. One's lowering the ladder with me, and then the other one's up on the roof. We're putting a roof on a house. And I see him coming down the ladder. And I'm yelling to him. His name's Stu. I'm yelling, say, Stu, get your brother, get your brother, get your brother. And then my soul, my energy, my spirit just pulled away from this world. It's the hardest thing to write about in the book, because how do you put that into words? And it was absolute calm and love and peace and all these words that we use, and then more so. And I communicated with something bigger than us. I call it God, you call it something, maybe. But there's an energy in all of us. Mine left my body, and then it came back. Because I communicated with this source. I said, what about my mom and what about Lisa, who was my girlfriend then, my wife now of almost 30 years? As soon as I expressed what? Love for them. I didn't say, oh, I got to go back and buy a big house. I have to go back and buy a Mercedes or a Porsche. I need to go back to... I had concern and love for another person, 2 people. Love wins. That's what drove me back into my body. So, laying there dead, now all of a sudden, my body starts again. I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I was all pins and needles. Then I finally get my motor skills. I crawl over to where my buddy is doing CPR on his brother. I come up next to him and he says, how are you here? And I said, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'll help out here on the CPR. Then the police and the paramedics got there. I looked reasonably fine now at this point. And they kind of moved me away from the scene. And I go, my feet are killing me. I look down, I got holes in the boots, take them off, holes in the socks, take them off, holes in my feet. The first line of the book is, why is there no blood? Because when the electricity comes out, it cauterized, it sealed all the blood vessels. So I'm looking into a hole in my foot like that. You imagine, I'm going, what the? You imagine what I'm saying to myself then. The other brother comes over. Here's the interesting thing, pay attention. And he says, what happened? And I said, I guess we hit the wire. He said, yeah, I know you did, I heard it. And I said, yeah, I know, I saw you coming down the roof, coming down the ladder. I was yelling to you to get your brother. He looks at me, he says, what? I said, I saw you coming down, I was yelling to you. He said, you didn't say anything. He said, I came to you first. Your eyes will roll back, foam all over your mouth, no heart rate, no breathing. He said, I did CPR on you for 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes, gave you up for dead. Ran across the street, called 911, ran back past me, still dead, got to his brother. So here I am yelling to him, hey, get your brother. And he's telling me he never heard it. I never said anything. I wasn't there. So there's an energy and a spirit, right? The human spirit is hardly human. It's very strong in all of you. It's your greatest source of support, your belief in yourself. Does that make sense? So as you move into your question marks now, the rest of your life, I've certainly been happy to spend some time with you, and I wish you all the best. Be bold with your vision. love the people around you, realize you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay, and go out and create a really fulfilling life for yourself. There's many, many reasons you can, from this day on, create a fabulous life for yourself. And there's many reasons you won't. It's your choice. The greatest of our human freedoms is to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. You got that? You got it? All right, wish you all the best, you guys. Thanks. Come over here, my man. Step right up here.
Yep. We're going to begin the interview progress now.
Okay, cool.
So first thing I want to know is, why do you think you survived? Why not your friend too? Why is it just you?
Oh, man. So the question, why did I survive and not my friend? I tried to figure that out for a long time, and then I kind of stopped trying to figure it out. Because why would you, two guys both on the ladder, boom, they're both dead. So rather than try to figure it out, I focused more on, and figuring out is in the past, right, which there's no traction in the past. I started to think about, what can I do with this second chance, so to speak? You know the term YOLO? What's that stand for? You only live once, right? So when my daughter was younger and then she got older and she realized what happened to me, she said, Dad, you're like Yolt. You only live twice. I'm like, all right, honey, good. I'm glad I'm here. So I think, right, a lot of times we go back in the past and try to figure out, why did something happen to us, when we can ask, why did it happen for us? How can we grow from it, right? You got it.
What about to someone who is really determined to self-destruct? They see no other option. They can't come out of that dark spot. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, I would say right there, if you get to that point, you just got to dial, I think it's 488 is a suicide prevention crisis. You just got to call. Because that self-destruction is a thought, remember? It's a thought. It doesn't have to be a choice. It's just a thought. Many people have self-destructive thoughts. It's just, we're not going to act on it, right? Yeah, so get on the horn. If your friends, anybody, same thing. Pay attention to them, right? Seek support, watch them. And then, get on the horn and call.
So with the way you've impacted many people's lives, why do you think it's important to keep going on?
I just think it's my purpose. People always say that they have to find their purpose. And I don't think you find your purpose. I think you grab a list of those values and you say, these are my 6 or 7. And then you design your life around them. And then you're on purpose. So for me, perhaps the reason I'm back is to write and speak and spend time with wonderful young people like you, just to support you on this life. Not that I have all the answers. I got a couple questions and a couple things that I think apply to all of us.
I want to wrap it up with this final question. Why do you think life goes certain ways? With some people having it more rough than others. Why do you think that is?
Why does life go certain ways? I think life just unfolds. Life is what it is, and negative things are going to happen. And the key is, right, we get knocked down, you got to get back up. You've heard those terms before. So I think that's what's really important. And though the belief and the mindset that we hold, I think there's a lot of people that they expect bad things to happen. And then that's what's it, man. They just keep kind of creating that from their actions, who they hang out with, versus to say, what would it be like when I have a really good year? Ask yourself that question a lot. What's it going to be like when I have a really good year? Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
You got it, brother. Good job. Good job. Give it up for Kevin. Give it up for Kevin.
All you, man.
All right, thanks. Thank you, guys.